What's up, everybody? Welcome to The View by dudes for everyone. My co-host wanted me to not say for just dudes because it's not. It's a lifestyle show about fitness, lifestyle. Part of the idea of the show came from Brian and I, mainly Brian, wanting to deliver information to you that's just truthful and honest as possible about the fitness industry. A lot of times it's confusing. Last week we talked about macronutrients and we talked about diet last week. Real quick, subscribe to the channel. We do these every week. Subscribe so that we can be downloaded into your subconscious each and every week. These two handsome faces into your brain. But this week we're dovetailing off that and talking about carbohydrates as part of a macronutrient, as part of your diet. For me, it's really confusing. Like, as we were prepping for the show, I told Brian I saw Phil Heath do a video on YouTube about his diet, and it was basically chicken and white rice. You know, I found another bodybuilder online who he basically said when he was broke, he ate half a can of raviolis and chicken breast, and that was the basic building block of his diet, 6 meals a day. And then you look at someone like Sylvester Stallone, who basically came out recently and said that he doesn't eat anything unless it's green and has a face. He's changed his workouts. He doesn't work out as hard, but he's eating, he said, a lot cleaner. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a ton of confusion out there on like what kind of foods have carbs in them, the best kinds. Sure. And so, you know, I think there's a lot of people, especially like even me, you go into diet and you go, I got to eliminate carbs and I got to, starve myself. So there's a lot of confusion on carbs and when you should have them, when you shouldn't have them. So that's what we're talking about today. And then from today, we're also going to get into paleo diets.
Yeah, I think the next, in the future, we're going to try to focus on probably the top 3 or 5. I won't say fad because they're not fad, but different styles of eating. Paleo, ketogenic, so on and so forth. So
right. So carbs. What?
Carbs.
Once again, the idea of the show and the question I had, I think for a lot of you will have is, if you're not a bodybuilder, if you're not that guy on Instagram constantly posting pics of leg day, so you don't have it. Once again, getting back into like, I'm trying to get fit again because I don't like how fat I am. I don't like the fact that my stomach touches my belt line when I sit. Mm-hmm. It's an uncomfortable feeling. Especially like in a business meeting, I feel less.
Do you sweat a lot?
I do. I sweat when I sleep and when I eat and when I...
Anyway.
I digress. So, yeah, no, talking about carbs, I think even as, people I know who are now getting back into it, you talk about when do I have a carb, when do I not? And there's just a ton of confusion. So... Mm-hmm. Clarify, like, what is a carb? And I know it's broad.
Yeah, this is very broad. So, like I said, we'll get more in depth based on individuals and probably have some people on the show to talk to them specifically about their structure and how they're going to do this. But, carbohydrates are sugar, both simple and complex. So simple sugars are like granulated sugar, anything that has sugar in it. Complex sugars are going to be oatmeal, for an example, or sprouted breads, or whole grains, or different roots like sweet potatoes, things like that.
Right.
So there's a time and a place for both, right? And I guess that's kind of the focus of today. Getting your carbohydrates in provides you very simply with energy and brain function and a lot of what sugars do. We've all had the sense of a heavy or a big workout and we're like cloudy in the brain and very depleted. That's low blood sugar. We've all been at our desk or at work and we can't focus on the computer or the conversation or whatever's trying to transpire. Not because we don't have enough caffeine or stimulant, it's because we don't have enough sugar in our system. We don't have enough fuel.
Right.
And fuel can come from fats or carbs. And that's how we have to look at it. Going back from last segment, carbs, protein, and fat are macronutrients. We establish our fuel sources, our energy sources from fats, healthy fats, or carbohydrates.
Right. So how come when someone goes into like diet mode, which you shouldn't, it should just be like a lifestyle
change? It should be a lifestyle
change.
Unless you're seriously prepping for something, right?
Yeah.
But I would imagine the majority of the people tuning in, and the majority of people that we interact with on a daily basis are lifestyle people, right? So it's how do I take off 10 pounds? How do I take this idea of this eating healthy and all these supplements and all this food and make it very simple for me to interchange with kids, work, responsibilities.
So you almost shouldn't look at it like I need to crash diet and lose 10 pounds or whatever. It should be like I need to make some tweaks, and over time, yeah, I'll be where I want to be. Yeah, but it's more sustainable.
That's my philosophy, right? And that's not the philosophy of everybody,
right? Because every video you see is like the one trick to lose weight.
Yeah, it's all trick, and I don't want to say it's all gimmick, but it's
pretty gimmicky.
It's pretty. I mean, obviously, if I tell you to eat 500 calories in a day for the next 2 weeks, you will lose weight.
I'll punch you in the face.
You'll be angry, but you will lose weight. You know, and that's true if it's me, you, or whomever.
Right.
If I reduce your calories and tell you to go work out for an extended period of time, you will get smaller.
That'll eventually pay out.
Yeah, right. You know.
So Gina, who's going into contest prep, she had this guy tell her, over the next 9 months, just eat basically vegetables and chicken. So why? And I think a lot of people do that. So why?
Yeah. Vegetables have carbohydrates. Certain vegetables have, but on the glycemic index, that's probably a word we'll put a post about or a link about. Glycemic index is a really useful term to research, so you understand where foods and carbohydrates kind of fit on that curve.
Right.
Because glycemic index is kind of outlining how those sugars respond to your body and spike or monitor your insulin and glucose response.
Right.
Okay. Not to get over sciencey, but those are some terms we should probably link to, and people need to understand.
Yeah, we'll put those in below right after you subscribe to the channel.
So yeah, if you are going to reduce your carbohydrates throughout the day, and
so someone watching this is like, yeah, no, I'm right in that stage where I'm thinking about dieting.
Sure.
And
or I hit a plateau, right? By taking all these carbs out, and I'm not moving, nothing's happening.
Right.
Because when we reduce our carbohydrates, our sugars and our energy levels decline.
Right.
Right. We feel very lethargic.
Right.
And then that usually takes us to caffeine and stimulants. So
drug abuse,
which isn't the best solution. I mean, there's a time and a place for caffeine, and it does tremendous things for our body.
Right.
But over caffeinating or over stimulating releases additional and unused cortisol and stress hormones, which actually cause us to hang on to fat.
Right.
Which is not what we want either. So there is a fine line with overstimulating and decreasing carbohydrates.
Right.
Go back. Carbohydrates are energy and fuel.
Right.
So if we're going to reduce our carbs, we need to get our energy from something. That needs to come from fats.
So I guess, okay, so backing up, so most people are probably eating too many carbs.
I think I wouldn't agree with that. I would say either people are eating too many or not enough. I know that sounds very vague,
right?
But I would say either people are not understanding of what carbohydrates do to their body and just kind of eating them.
Like Angie has a friend who eats pizza for every meal because she thinks it's balanced, right? Like that's too many carbs.
Well,
it's just terrible.
That's stupid.
Okay, right. So that's one end of the spectrum.
That's like, there's no logic in that.
Well, common sense isn't so common, right?
True.
So you have that on one end of the spectrum, then you have someone who goes like, I know girls who are like, I'll only eat like broiled chicken, and that's the other end of the spectrum.
Yeah, I don't think the majority of people don't want to live in either world, right? They don't really want to just eat fast food because it makes them feel like crap.
Right. And
nobody wants to eat boiled chicken and vegetables for the rest of their life.
Right. So if someone's moderately physical.
Yeah. So if you're fairly in shape, and by in shape I mean you're conscious about potentially working out 3 to 5 times a week, which is probably most people, whether it's outside, inside, gym setting, whatever, right? And they're conscious about what they're putting in their face, then they need to be aware of what those macronutrients do, and carbohydrates specifically. If they're going to,
so how do they evaluate it? They're sitting there right now, like they're like, okay, what do I do?
I think you evaluate your carbohydrate intake based on where you are currently and where you want to go. Creating a baseline for yourself, kind of like what we did with you and Gina, right? Creating a baseline to say, this is how much body fat I'm carrying, this is how much muscle mass I'm carrying, and this is my caloric expenditure, meaning what's going out, to understand what must come back in.
Right.
What must come back in needs to come in the form of macronutrients, and then understanding the ratios of that. Okay? Right. So if we're going to decrease our carbohydrate intake, we need to increase our fats, and your fats need to be about 50% of your caloric intake per day.
Right.
So
Okay.
if that's 3,500 calories, 2,000 calories, whatever that number is, that 50% is obviously still 50%.
So most people don't know that number, and we talked about this last week, but I hate to use the word amazing or like the most coolest thing I've ever seen, because I think human beings misuse language all the time. Like, was it amazing? It blew your mind?
Really, yeah. Was it
Like
a miracle?
You saw it and then just passed out because
Right.
it was so amazing. But I would say that the in-body composition at Max Muscle is literally one of the neater things I've ever seen. In terms of my own body, like being an ex-athlete, having access to sports science, all that kind of stuff. And it goes without saying, like anything great in life you want to do, you got to have a clear picture of.
Mm-hmm.
And
you have to have a starting point.
yeah,
right?
a plan, some sort of like analysis. The in-body machine really for me it really showed me for the first time in a long time, really ever probably, where my body really is, what it's doing, how much fat I have, how much muscle structure I have. You know, for me, a big guy, 250, I was a little shocked that I was at 18% and 250 and had a lot of muscular structure. So if you haven't had that done and you're really serious about changing your lifestyle to be more fit, I would come in, get with Brian and the team here and get an in-body and figure out all those metrics, right? So you can tweak them.
You have to have a baseline. Now, how do you know what to tweak if you don't know where you're starting
Right,
from?
because you said calories. Like most people don't even know what your basal metabolic rate is. If you just laid on the couch all day, how many calories do you need to put in your body to just maintain?
Sustain. Yeah.
So once you know that number, you can build off of that number.
Right, because then you factor in, I'm working out 5 times a week, this is what's going out, my lifestyle, et cetera. So obviously that's probably going to increase.
Right.
Nobody's just doing nothing.
So talk to the person who's watching this and maybe goes, yeah, I don't know if I want to come in for an in-body. I'm not comfortable with that yet, whatever.
Sure.
And they're still looking from this video to get some like wisdom of like, okay. Tomorrow.
So tomorrow I would start with, we last
And I would
show-
talk real quick. I saw this bodybuilder do this thing on food prep, and he was like, it is the single most important thing
True.
you will ever do for fitness. So look up videos. We've talked about it in the last video. He said if you don't have your whole week thought out, you're already at a disadvantage.
Behind the game,
you're at
yeah.
a disadvantage in terms of like being in shape and being fit.
Right.
You can't come into a day and not know what you're going to have. So for those of you who are lazy and you go, I would immediately go, shit, that sounds terrible.
Yeah.
You just got to do it. If you want to,
Yeah.
you just have to. So the person watching this who's just going, okay, now give me what do I do? Like, how do I eat
So we
tomorrow?
built off last show and saying pick 5 things, right? Consume
Right.
more water, eat less sugar, decrease your caffeine, get off the couch 3 times a week,
Right.
food prep.
Right.
We gave them 5 things to kind of start the week off and say, these are tangible, check, 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 I'm on the right path. Now, taking those 5 things one step further and adding maybe a few more to it would be understand your caloric expenditure, okay? Plan your workout throughout your day. So if you are going to work out in the afternoon, understand your calories leading up to that and understand your calories leading after that. Okay? So try to consume majority of fats and protein leading up to your workout, getting your energy from fats. When we eat carbohydrates, both simple and complex, utilize your post-workout meals to do that.
So you're saying before workout, protein shake with MCT oil, coconut oil, chicken breast a couple hours later with, I don't
2
know.
cups of veggies.
Okay.
You can drizzle some olive oil on that. You can have a handful of almonds. You can get avocado. You can get fats from other sources.
Are we good on time? How much time?
This is 11:39.
Oh, okay, we're good. So we have a few minutes till 9 o'clock?
It's 9:02.
Okay, so we'll wrap this up. So fats or lean in the morning if you're gonna work out. You crush your workout. You burn 600-700 calories. Then after your workout is when you could have your Ezekiel bread.
You could even go simple.
Sweet potato.
You can even go simple after your workout because you want that insulin response. So simple sugars would be you would put that fruit in post workout. You would put maybe some white breads or some white carbohydrates post workout. Those white things from a carbohydrate standpoint are usually the more simple ones.
Yeah.
So they have a greater insulin or glucose response. Okay, so you could put those post-workout, which really help with stress reduction, hormone support, and really getting that glycogen level back up as it was depleted through your workout and throughout the day.
Which helps build muscle.
Which helps build muscle, which helps repair muscle, which helps put blood back into the muscle, a lot of positive things.
It also give you the energy to sustain the day.
Yeah, Yeah, and then that second meal post training can be more of a complex. Maybe it's a root based, it's sweet potato or the brown rice or the Ezekiel bread or whatever.
Oh, that's really good. So